Well, let me just say that for President Trump and for Governor Abbott in Texas and Governor DeSantis in Florida to begin opening the economy based on political concerns as opposed to all clear given by medical specialists, physicians, and scientists is grossly irresponsible and something that should give all Americans and residents in their states pause for concern. I think Trump is making his very bellicose statements in an effort to make sure that his base is ginned up. We've seen a large number of his supporters from his base engaging in street protests, and under our Constitution, they are certainly able and free to engage in these street protests. I frankly think if the president is going to support and retweet support for these street protests, then he should, which are basically political rallies, then he should have the gumption to go out and attend one himself and show real leadership. Of course, he's not going to, because most of the people that are attending these don't believe a lot of the rhetoric themselves. We've seen people in hazmat suits and masks and gloves holding signs that say COVID-19 is a lie. Now, that's definitely a conflicting message. We have seen signs where people that have come out at the end of COVID-19 infection getting reinfected. We have evidence of people that have gone to the hospital numerous times and have been misdiagnosed, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then finally, they get it right and test them and find out that they've had COVID-19 all along, and they get put on a ventilator and then die. So all along, these massive amounts of numbers, and these numbers are huge. I would estimate that these numbers are probably grossly undercounted. If we were to factor the number of people that have been misdiagnosed or just have not been counted, this pandemic is probably far larger than it already is. And if there is a remote danger, and we've heard some of this from the medical professionals, that there is a danger of this coming back because there's talk of it mutating, then we should err on the side of caution and err on the side of human life. There has been a handful of people, even on the conservative side, such as Michael Savage, he's a conservative radio host, that has been chastising the likes of Sean Hannity and Fox News and a lot of the organ grinders that have been attacking the medical professionals, such as Dr. Fauci. So this is a very dangerous game that the president is playing. He's playing a political game with people's lives. Of course, he's been doing this in the form of sanctions in Iran and sanctions in Venezuela. And of course, when you have a leader that doesn't have a moral compass or a conscience, then that's inherently dangerous in and of itself. From day one, he had warnings. He had his Health and Human Services Secretary warn him that this was a danger coming over from China. And Trump dismissed those claims early. He dismissed the whole concept of COVID-19 early when the cases were beginning to pop up in the United States. And then finally, when he was spurred to action, he did restrict travel from China, but by that point, the infection had already spread. And then he put his vice president in charge of a task force that should have been headed by medical and science professionals, or at least by his Health and Human Services Secretary, who has some degree of expertise and had warned him about it a full 2 months prior. So his response has been, to put it mildly, grossly inept. The testing is nowhere near as on par as it has been in other countries, including countries that are nowhere near as wealthy and developed as the United States. And for the United States to now be saying we're going to go ahead and open the economy when we haven't even caught up on testing, when we're nowhere near having any sort of medicine can treat this thing. The malaria drug has now been proven. There's been some laboratory tests. It doesn't appear to be the panacea that the president has been making it out to be. So I'm deeply concerned. My oldest daughter, is a nurse in a major hospital, and I talk to her several times a day, and she has described to me just a horrific picture of what medical professionals are facing, almost like a war zone type of setting. And so I'm just not convinced that this is being treated in the manner in which that it should be treated. And of course, now foodstuffs in the United States supply chains are beginning to be affected, not just paper products like toilet tissue and paper towels. You now have canned meats that are being limited. Packed meat processing packing houses have shut down. And there was an article out today talking about the overall produce having shortages, and other foodstuffs having shortages. So I don't think we're anywhere near close to the end of this, and a premature startup of the economy might serve to spread this even faster and have a far more negative effect than to leave things sitting in place right now until the science can address this. Well, early on, President Trump was very complimentary towards how China was handling the situation with COVID-19. And one can go on and look at past clips of his own statements to verify that. He was very complimentary. He said China was transparent. They were handling it very well. And of course, mistakes can be made in any sort of lab, whether they be in China or the United States. But it's also very important to note that throughout history, the United States has been very clever in the use of language to name these things. The Spanish flu, for instance, originated in the U.S. state of Kansas. So I think that this is not the time. It's not going to serve us to scapegoat at this time while we're in the middle of fighting a pandemic. I think the best thing we can do is to, one, fight the virus and help all countries fight the virus. That includes removing all sanctions on all countries, share information on how to fight this virus, and not get into these multinational squabbles, because I think at some point down the road we might find that this was indeed a horrific accident somewhere, and we may find out that it originated someplace other than China.